At exactly 6 in the morning, someone began pounding on my front door. Not knocking, pounding. I froze in my kitchen, still holding the cup of tea I had just poured. My husband Robert was sitting at the table, staring at me with the same confused expression I felt inside. Then I heard my son's voice. "Mom, open the door." My heart sank. It was Daniel, and beside him was his wife Claire. I hadn't told them about the new account. I hadn't told anyone. 3 days earlier, Robert and I had moved our entire pension savings into a new account at another bank. It wasn't a secret because we were doing anything wrong. It was a secret because, for the first time in years, we wanted something that belonged entirely to us. Peace. We were both retired. Our pension was supposed to pay for the quiet years ahead, our groceries, our little garden, medical expenses, and maybe one modest vacation each year. But somehow Daniel had begun treating our pension like a family emergency fund. At first, it was small. "Mom, I just need a little help this month." Then it became, "Dad, you can afford it. You're retired." Then came the larger requests. His car needed repairs, his business needed money, their rent had increased. There was always something. And every time we said no, Daniel reminded us of everything he had supposedly sacrificed for us. "You're my parents," he'd say. "What else are you going to do with the money?" That sentence stayed with me. What else were we going to do with our own money? I had spent 40 years putting my family first. I had raised Daniel, supported his dreams, and stood beside him through every difficult season. But I had never imagined that one day my own son would believe my retirement belonged to him. The final warning came when I discovered something that shattered me. Daniel had been asking Robert about our pension payments without telling me. He knew the dates. He knew approximately how much came in, and according to Robert, Daniel had even asked whether we had anything saved somewhere else. That question frightened me. So on Monday morning, Robert and I went to the bank. We moved our pension savings into an account that only the two of us could access. No family member, no shared password, no casual conversations about balances. It wasn't revenge. It was protection. But what I didn't know was that Daniel would discover the change almost immediately, and 3 mornings later at 6 o'clock, he was standing outside my house demanding our pension back. I walked slowly toward the door. Robert whispered, "Don't open it yet." I looked at him. "Why?" He took my hand. "Because this time, we don't owe anyone an explanation. And for the first time in my life." The pounding continued. "Mom, I know you're in there," Claire shouted from behind him. "Please, just open the door." I stood there silently. A year ago, I would have rushed to the door. I would have worried about whether Daniel was okay. I would have apologized for making him wait. But that morning, something inside me had changed. I wasn't afraid anymore. I finally understood that being a loving mother didn't mean allowing someone to control my life. Eventually, Daniel shouted, "Mom, you moved the pension account. You can't do that." I looked at Robert. He shook his head slowly. Then I opened the door. Daniel stood there looking furious. Claire was behind him, arms crossed tightly. "Why did you move the money?" Daniel demanded. I answered calmly. "Because it's ours." He stared at me as if I had said something outrageous. "You know we need that money." "No," I said. "You need money, that's different." His face changed. For a moment I saw the little boy I had raised. Then I remembered the man standing in front of me. "You promised you'd help us," he said. "I have helped you. You're my mother, and you're my son," I replied. "Neither of those things means you own my pension." Claire stepped forward. "This is really unfair. You have more than enough." I almost laughed. More than enough? They had no idea what it cost us to save that money. Years of skipping holidays. Old furniture we kept repairing instead of replacing. Meals planned around discounts. Robert working extra years because we were terrified of having nothing when we got old. And now, after all that, they looked at our savings as if it were sitting there waiting for them. Daniel lowered his voice. "Just transfer it back." "No." He blinked. It was the first time I had ever said that without immediately explaining myself. "No?" he repeated. "No." He started telling me about his problems. Bills, debt, business expenses, promises he had made, things that were supposedly my responsibility. I listened, and then I asked one question. "Daniel, if we gave you everything today, what would happen next month?" He said nothing. That silence told me everything. The money wouldn't solve the problem. It would only postpone it. Then Claire said something I'll never forget. "You're choosing money over your own son." My eyes filled with tears. "No," I said quietly. I'm choosing my future over your demands." That was the moment Daniel became completely silent. He turned around and walked away. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. Later that afternoon, Daniel called again. His voice was calmer. "Mom, I didn't mean what I said." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But then he added, "If you don't help us, we're going to lose everything." I closed my eyes. For years I had confused guilt with love. I thought saying no made me a bad mother. But suddenly I realized something. If my relationship with my son depended on how much money I gave him, then, maybe, the relationship had already been broken. That evening, Robert and I sat quietly in our garden. The sun was going down. I cried, not because I regretted moving the money. I cried because I finally accepted that the son I remembered from childhood was not the man standing at my door anymore. And I couldn't keep protecting an image of him while sacrificing myself for the reality. Then the next morning, we received a letter from the bank. Daniel had tried to make changes to information connected to our old account. He wasn't successful. But that was the final confirmation I needed. This wasn't simply desperation. He had begun crossing boundaries. So I made a decision. I would stop rescuing him, and I would let him face the consequences of his own choices. 2 weeks passed. We didn't hear from Daniel. At first the silence hurt. I kept checking my phone. Every mother knows that feeling, the strange hope that the person who hurt you will call and say the words you've been waiting to hear. "I'm sorry, I understand, I was wrong." But the call never came. Instead, Robert and I continued with our lives. We paid our bills. We planted new flowers. We went for morning walks. For the first time in years, I wasn't checking our bank balance with fear. I knew our future was secure. Then one afternoon, Daniel appeared at our house. But this time he wasn't angry. He looked exhausted. He sat across from us and stared at the floor. "I messed up," he finally said. I didn't answer. He continued, "I thought you'd always save me." My heart tightened. He admitted that he had built his life around the belief that whenever things went wrong, we would step in. And because we always had, he never learned how to stand on his own. That confession hurt more than his anger, because I realized I had played a part in creating that expectation. I had loved him so much that I had protected him from every consequence. But love without boundaries can become another kind of harm. Daniel didn't get our pension. We didn't give him the money. Instead, we offered something different. We helped him make a realistic budget. We encouraged him to sell things he didn't need. We told him to speak honestly with the people he owed. And most importantly, we told him that we would support him emotionally, but we would no longer finance every crisis. At first he struggled with that, but slowly, things began changing. Months later, Daniel found steadier work. He started paying down his debts. He and Claire moved into a smaller place. Their life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. And ours was finally ours too. One evening, Daniel came to visit. Before he left, he hugged me. "Mom," he whispered, "I understand now." I smiled. "What do you understand?" "That your money was never mine." I hugged him back. "No, sweetheart," I said, "but my love was always yours." He cried. So did I. Because sometimes the greatest revenge isn't watching someone suffer. Sometimes it's refusing to let their choices destroy you. That morning at 6 o'clock, my son came to my door demanding our pension. He thought he was too late because the money had already been moved. But the truth was, he was too late because I had finally learned to choose myself. I didn't destroy my son. I didn't abandon him. I simply stopped destroying myself to save him. And that became the greatest lesson of my retirement. You can love your family deeply and still protect your own future. Because setting a boundary doesn't mean you love someone less. Sometimes, it means you finally love yourself too.